Welcome back to the Barrel Talk Podcast. We are back with another episode. I know football season is in full swing, but it's about to be October. Basketball season is just a couple weeks away, and we're going to be having some more basketball content and getting ramped up and posted on the channel going into this NBA season. Media Day has kind of flown through this past couple of days, but we have one question for every Eastern Conference team in this video. We're going to have a Western Conference episode as well, but Cole did all the odd numbers. I did all the even numbers based on last year's standings. We can go 15 up to 1. Cole, go ahead and start out with one question for the 15th seed in the Eastern Conference last year, which was the Washington Wizards.
All right. So the Washington Wizards are kind of an upsetting one. Their fans after this draft were obviously a little bit disappointed because they did not get one of those top 1, top 2, top 3 picks, or sorry, number 1 pick, I should say. So, but for me, they still have a good young core. I really like the draft pick of Trey Johnson. I think he was one of my favorite players coming into the draft anyway. So between him and all of these young guys that they have, my one question for the Wizards is like, which one of these young guys is going to become an all-star, or at least show that he could be an all-star one day? Because if that doesn't happen this year, you're just going to start falling behind all these other really young teams around the league that are starting to have their guys develop. And that's something like if I was a Wizards fan, that would be really concerning to me because as much as I like all these young guys, if Trey Johnson doesn't turn out to be like one of the best shot makers, like out of all the young players, I just don't really know if I see any of these young guys with a high enough ceiling. I love Alex Sarr as a defensive player and with his defensive upside to become maybe one of the best rim protectors in the league. But he hasn't shown shit offensively to where you think he's going to become that all-star level player. And they're going to end up trading Middleton and CJ McCollum. But which one of these young guys is going to become that all-star potential player, all-NBA potential, hopefully, player?
Right. No, I agree. I'm glad you brought up CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton because those are guys that can net them a good value. And they're in a good position because now their books are going to be super, super open next off season because all those guys are on 1-year contracts and all those guys are going to be pretty easy to move at the deadline without injuries formulate and everything else. And like looking at this team, like, yes, they're not the biggest market, but they're a team that could snag somebody who is a restricted free agent and throw them a bag next offseason. I don't know off the top of my head some of the younger guys that are going to be in that pool, but with how the second apron's moving, if you're not a for sure guy on a team, another team with some cap space can swoop in and steal somebody off of a really, really good team. Like OKC has a plethora of guys that could fit well in Washington that like maybe OKC just can't pay. Like I know they've done a really good job of paying some guys early, which is I'm always a fan of, but like they always have guys around the league that could easily get swooped up that just I feel like some young guy could easily get swooped up on a restricted deal.
If you're Washington, could you see Aaron Wiggins being a starter for you guys and improving you? Like maybe they're looking at some of those guys like that. I agree, Corey. Like Aaron Wiggins is one of my favorite guys on OKC that doesn't get many minutes. And maybe a team like Washington thinks, oh, he could come be a starter for us and show a lot more in the Eastern Conference, 1, and 2, just with the opportunity. That's a lot of what basketball is. I agree.
Yeah, so I would have to pull up a list and see what restricted guys are going into next offseason because without the second aprons moving, it's looking like we're going to be in that realm. But I can move on to the 14th seed, Charlotte Hornets. I think it's the same question every year with this team. Can LaMelo Ball stay healthy? I think that we reacted to the top 100 in our group chat, but I just think he has gone into this light of we forget how good LaMelo Ball is at basketball. Like his feel for the game is like top 5, top 10 in the league, just about his feel and how he moves and up and down the court and how he can play. But the injuries have been a big question mark for him and his career so far up to this point. But Charlotte's brought in some veteran talent. They're kind of going down the route that Detroit just did this past year with bringing in just more veterans, more NBA talent. Because when you look at Charlotte, they haven't had like any NBA talent for real, like around LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. Like I like their new regime and where they're going, coach and organizationally. But like LaMelo Ball is the key. If he's healthy, this team can really run, especially in that bottom half of the Eastern Conference where there's no real solidified team down there. To where if Brandon Miller takes a jump and you have LaMelo Ball healthy all year, a lot could happen. But that's really my take and my question. The Charlotte Hornets can do a lot of things in the offseason, bring in whoever they want. They brought in a ton of guards. this offseason. Possibly 2, like, cushion the blow if LaMelo does get hurt. That's kind of them addressing something that has been a problem in past years. But that's my main question. If LaMelo Ball and can LaMelo Ball stay healthy, I think the Charlotte Hornets team can actually finally, like, turn the corner. I'm not saying playoffs playing or anything like that, but just be a better team, more competitive of a team, and hit that corner a little bit.
I mean, I like that you're seeing the positive potential of this, right? I mean, we like their draft, and they brought in a lot of good guards and stuff, but, like, let's just say that front court can't hold up defensively. Maybe LaMelo misses some games. Maybe Brandon Miller doesn't make a jump like you expected him to after his rookie year once again. And this team's kind of in that same spot around deadline. Like, is this the year LaMelo gets traded maybe and they focus on, like, with their younger guys and Brandon Miller, Con Knipple, if he shows anything? Like, is this maybe that year where he's gone at the deadline?
Yeah, I think this is, if there was any year to do it, it would be this year, because if he is healthy all year and has a really good first half of the season going into deadline, but the Charlotte Hornets just aren't hitting the corner, like maybe Con Knipple, Brandon Miller didn't take the jump that you would expect, the front court depth isn't good enough, that would be a good time to cash in on LaMelo Ball and look at all around the league and what every team could be in the argument for saying they could use a 6'8" point guard that can run the floor and run the show.
Especially if he's healthy all year. His value is going to be back to the top notch.
Because I know it's might be a little bit tough because a lot of people have recency bias in their head, and he had such a great historic playoff run. But I don't fully believe the gap between Tyrese Halliburton and LaMelo Ball is such this wide margin. I think they play a really similar style. I think I'd give Halliburton the edge defensively, but I think LaMelo has the ability to play. He's just not in that competitive environment and hasn't been since he's gotten in the league. But LaMelo has a strap. He can shoot the ball, run the floor, play make just as good as Tyrese Halliburton. He might not have the leadership qualities of Tyrese Halliburton, but he hasn't been in that situation to be a leader and be on a team that's competitive enough. So I think the gap, if I had to compare him to a player, is Tyrese Halliburton, but they are in just two wildly different situations. So I think a 6'8", 6'7" point guard that can run the show would be a very valuable asset to any team. Now he is on a bigger contract in the second April we've already talked about, but him at the deadline, if they're feeling like Brandon Miller can be their guy going forward and they can take some capital from LaMelo Ball in a trade.
Houston, tap in.
Like, man, let's
get him, Amen, and KD on a team together.
It would be insane. I'll have to see the contracts because I don't know exactly how much LaMelo Ball's making because I know he got the big extension. So it has to be around 40-something. But I don't know. Anything's possible in the NBA. We've seen Luka Doncic be traded, so anything's really possible at the deadline.
No, I like that. Who's next? Who do I have up next here? Let me just go back to my. It's insane the 76ers were this bad in the East last year. But it's because of what my question is. All I wrote down for this one is my question was Joel. Joel ? We're talking about a guy who is an MVP in this league, one of the best players in the league, the most skilled big I've ever watched. He's unbelievable. And I don't know. They're saying, what is going on with that? Before we started recording, we were talking about what's going on with Quentin Grimes. They're going to pay him or not. It's just insane for these Sixer fans. You hear about a Jared McCain injury. You don't know what is even going on with Joel. Is he going to play this year at all? Who knows? I mean, Tyrese Maxey's a bucket, but Paul George off the bad year too. This team is all question marks. We're doing what questions do you have for this team? Everything about this team is a question mark because if what they have is like they're at least just playing, we're talking about a team that could win a playoff series. I mean, they got Joel Embiid, they got Tyrese Maxey, and then if it's not and guys aren't playing, guys are hurt, I don't even care if VJ Edgecombe looks really good this year. I mean, they're still going to be back towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference without Joel Embiid. Like, I just don't see it if he's not playing. That's my question for the Sixers. Like, what's going on? Is Joel Embiid going to play this year? Are you guys going to be good? I don't even know.
It basically comes down to if Joel Embiid plays somewhere between 55 to 65 games, this team's probably going to be, especially with like Boston banged up and the Pacers banged up, probably a top 4 seed in the East. But that's the question mark. I agree. Like, I am actually more on I think PG has more of a bounce back. I'm not saying we're going to get all-star level Paul George back, but like,
I expect that.
He played way too bad, and people also don't understand. Like, he was getting knee injections and shots and all kinds of shit before games. Like, I think him having a full healthy offseason to not be in rehab mode, but to actually train and get in shape for the season. I think we're going to see a bit of a bounce back from Paul George. I can see him easily averaging somewhere between 16 to 20 a game. Like, I think he's going to be fine. I think Maxi's going to be
PG at
fine.
16 a game makes me sick, bro. But
yeah,
I don't like hearing that. But yeah, keep going.
I think he'll somewhere between that. But you got to think if Joel Embiid's healthy, that's 25 to 30 a night.
100%.
You got Maxey, who's at least 20 to 25 a night. So you really only need PG to give you a 16 to 20 a night. So, like, if that's a big question mark, obviously, if everybody's healthy. But in terms of Paul George, I think he's going to be fine. I think Maxey's going to be fine. I would like VJ Edgecombe. And then, like, Joel Embiid, if he can stay healthy, this team's going to be a top 4 seed. But that's a big question mark to where I got to see it to believe it at this point. It's kind of like a little bit in the LaMelo Ball conversation to where I think this is the last year because both of them have some injury problems. Joel Embiid more so than LaMelo Ball. But, like, there will be more discussions, I feel like, if they can get and recruit some value. But I also have a hard time believing. I think the Sixers are just riding this shit out with Embiid until the wheels fall off, honestly.
I do too.
Because I don't see a team desperate enough to take the risk and trade for him, really.
Right. His value, because of his injury history, his value is way lower than the level of player he is. That way, to a point, the Sixers will never be able to get a fair deal done for them.
And Daryl Morey's just not giving him away for scraps. Like, he's just not.
No shot.
He'd rather ride it out until the wheels fall off than trade Joel Embiid for scraps. So, yeah, no, I agree with the question 100%. Like, he is the question mark with that team and what they could be this year. They're either a top 4 team going into the playoffs if he's healthy or where they were this year if he's not. Because this team runs around Joel Embiid. I don't care how deep you are. When you don't have 30 and 12 a night out of Joel Embiid, you're not going to be able to make shit shake in the Eastern Conference, really, even with all the injuries out east. But going on to the Brooklyn Nets, who is a part of the young core? That's my question for the Nets, because they have a ton of shit going on over there. Me and you were kind of questionable about their draft with how many guards they selected. A lot of guards who do the same thing in a way.
Guards who are
like
not
Igor
good.
Demon. Yeah, I think Igor Demon's a fine pick.
Yeah,
but I feel like he should have went more in the middle rather than top 10 for them.
They could have got him with their second first rounder.
Yeah. That's just bad draft selection right there. I like Danny Wolf. I feel like Danny Wolf would have been fire. We already talked about it when we did our draft review as a Warriors fan. I would have loved to see Danny Wolf in our system with his passing ability. But I like Danny Wolf. I feel like they're going to run some interesting lineups with him and Nick Claxton. I'm surprised they kept Nick Claxton. They brought Cam Thomas back as well. You have MPJ. Like, who knows what this Brooklyn Nets team is going to be this year, if anything at all. I don't think they're going to be anything at all. But if you can solidify some kind of who is on the young core, I feel like Cam Thomas is on his way out eventually. MPJ, somebody you could probably flip if he has a good year. Nick Claxton the same way. So it's like, if you can kind of establish some form of young core, young guys on your team, I think that's a win this season, because nobody's looking at the Nets to be a play-in team or be a playoff team. So, like, if you can just get 1 or 2 guys, like, that you can look at and be like, okay, we can kind of turn the corner, not building blocks, but we have 2 guys that we can really work with going forward in the future with this roster. That's kind of my main question, because they have a lot of young talent, young-ish talent, however you want to label it as, on that team.
I agree. The only thing that kind of bothers me about it is, like, we just praised their front office for how they started that rebuild, right, and getting the value they did get for the Mikal Bridges trade. I just think, like, we both know there's no upside for them really being a team that wins a lot of games in the East this year. So even if you are able to flip all this stuff, it feels like you're just – the best case scenario is you just get back to the spot you were just in this summer. Like, why weren't you capitalizing on having the 5 first-round picks this year? However you feel about this year's draft class, 5 first-round picks in 1 year, or however many it was, I think it was 5. It's like, I feel like this was the year you feel like you have to capitalize. So if you do get back into the thing of, like, okay, we can do something with that, it's good, right? That means, you get another shot. But I don't like that you kind of fucked it up the first time, if you did. I mean, it's too early to say. But that would be my only, negative takeaway from that question. But I 100% agree. Like, this is just, I 100% agree with you. Like, what are you going to get out of those guys? I agree with the point you made too of Michael Porter Jr. I actually think he's going to have a really good year. And then, yeah, maybe you keep him, but maybe you're able to get more out of him than you should have. So, yeah.
But that's all I really have about the Nets, because they should have probably traded up in that draft for those 5 first-rounders and went into the top 4 and got a real solidified talent for sure. But they ended up drafting all 5. I think that was the problem on draft night. Everybody was waiting for the Nets to like use those picks and trade up. They could have even used their first pick in the 10s, and then you could have traded up again in the early teens and got somebody.
Like who is the guy you think they should have definitely got this year?
I feel like if you would have, like, Ace Bailey was there. I feel like Ace Bailey was there. He was falling, and you can have like whatever discussions you want about his agent and everything that went down with the draft process, but if you saw him falling with all those first round picks, I'd rather have Ace Bailey by himself as a draft pick than the 5 guys they did draft, just off ceiling alone.
I agree. I like that.
And I doubt they would have been able to trade up that far. But like, I would have liked VJ Edgecombe, because I think he's a real deal guy in this league, and the Nets don't really have like a shooting guard like that, but he can play a little bit of 2, a little bit of 3. But I've liked what I've seen with him in the Sixers so far, but like, I don't know if they would have been able to trade up that far. And Philly was in kind of a compete mode, and he's a perfect guy for them.
Yeah, who knows how far they would trade up. They just had so much capital that night, though. Like, they could have low-key made anything happen. But
like, even like, the confusing thing is, like, I would have loved Trey Johnson, and you could have just washed your hands with the Cam Thomas situation. But like,
that's what I was just gonna say. Yes, facts. Like, that would have been the move, because I think Trey Johnson's gonna be better than Cam Thomas, one, and then you don't have to give up all. Like, why aren't you thinking like that? Even anything. And if you wanted to get point guard, that's obviously what they were going for. I'm going up for a Jeremiah Fears before taking a chance on any of these other guys. And I don't even love Jeremiah Fears as a prospect, too crazy. But I'm easily dumping a couple picks to move up for him. He went at what, 6 or 7? He went at 7.
He's with the Pelicans, who have DeJounte, Jordan Poole already.
And that's what I'm saying. They easily. Why are you gambling all these? They must see something in their scouting with like a Traore or something. Because I don't know if I don't know. Summer League's just whatever though. That it could all be good.
And around where they took Traore, like, I like Kasparis a little bit more. That's just me though.
You let the Heat walk away with a steal once again.
Yeah.
And Kasparis. I'm taking Kasparis over all of them too. I'm taking Kasparis over Jaeger also.
But you can go on to 11.
Yeah, the Toronto Raptors, if I'm not mistaken, were the 11th seed last year. And so when I look at the Toronto Raptors, so I was looking in class at their depth chart earlier today, and I just pulled it back up, and all I see is good basketball players. A bunch of guys I like, and I think they're good. But the problem is what I'm asking myself, and I think what I've seen a lot of people asking about them is it going to fit? But my question isn't if it's going to fit, if they're going to all fit. Because even if they do, what does it mean? How good could they even be if it does all fit? Scotty Barnes' progression has gone slower than we all liked, and let's just be honest. We thought by now he was going to be way ahead of where he is. Yes, he has the all-star appearance, but I just haven't seen the progression with Scotty that I like. I look at Brandon Ingram as a player I really love, and I think he's been a very underrated playmaker. I think Brandon Ingram could really take a leadership role on this team, assert himself as a vet in this league, and then they could be a playoff team. I do think so. But I don't see them with the ceiling of – I don't think they can win a playoff series. The Emmanuel Quickley contract sucks ass. I don't like the Colin Murray-Boyles pick. If you're being honest with yourself on draft night, you go with the guard. At least I would have. I can't remember off the top of my head who was there that they passed on. There's a bunch of guys I like, though, in that draft over Colin Murray-Boyles. For the Rosh, you have Scotty Barnes already and Brandon Ingram. They're going to get all those minutes in the front court.
And RJ Barrett.
And RJ Barrett, who they're starting RJ at shooting guard, but he's a 3 for real. They got a bunch of good basketball players. I don't like the draft pick. You should have swallowed your pride on Emmanuel Quickley. Said, hey, if we want to get to where we want to be, he's got to be our 6th man. That's what he showed he's good at in New York. He's got to be our 6th man. And we're looking for our lead guard. And in that meantime, Brandon Ingram can have playmaking responsibilities. So I guess I'm more doing a Raptors breakdown right now, but I guess that's just my question. Like, even if all this fits, all these good players, like, what's their real ceiling in the East? You know, it feels like they kind of put put some chips in on this year, but I don't know what they're going to be able to get from it. But shout out to Ochai Agbaji and Grady Dick, too. I'm a Kansas basketball fan. I think those guys are really good. I think they could actually have big years.
I agree. I'm a little bit higher on the Colin Murray Boyles pick because
he's a great defender, by the way. I just want to say that. I acknowledge that. Keep going, though.
I think Kaman was there on draft night, and everybody thought that was going to be the pick. But I'm fine with them. I like Colin Murray Boyles. When you look at the value and how important it is to have just a 6'8" versatile defender, like scoring aside, we know the offensive game may or may not come for him, but like how valuable it is. We're seeing guys like Dorian Finney-Smith like get an absolute bag from the Rockets just off his. I know he's more of a shooter and a 3-and-D guy, but just off his ability to defend multiple positions. So having just a guy, and with the Toronto Raptors, like Brandon Ingram's had injury history, like to have him just in the midst on the bench with Grady Dick and Agbaji, like I think it's fine. But I think that for me, that take is going to have to age better in how I think about it. But like they do have a lot of talent, a lot of good basketball players, like you said. I think they're going to be in a way better spot than a lot of people think, especially out east with Boston and the Pacers being hurt. Because I'm going to make this comparison. It might be a little bit of a hot take, but everybody looks at Houston and how Ime Udoka, and I think Ime Udoka is one of the best coaches in the league. The Rockets are doing their thing. But he's talking about these lineups, and now they don't have Fred VanVleet, of these jumbo big lineups with like Men, KD, like Steven Adams, Sengun, and Jabari. Like they're talking these big crazy lineups, right?
Yeah.
When you look at just the personnel of the Raptors, not comparing the teams, just the personnel, Toronto can do the same thing. Toronto could be a matchup nightmare because I think they're going to experiment more with Scotty at the 1. And then you're going to have Brandon Ingram with size out there, RJ Barrett with size out there, Jakob Poeltl, you can run Colin Murray Boyles, you're going to have shooting with Grady Dick off your bench and Emmanuel Quickley. Like, they have a versatile team, and they can play with a lot of different lineups. If it will fit, that's the big question like you brought up. If it does fit, I think they can be, because everybody just assumes the Rockets are going to fit and everything else like that with that big jumbo lineup, and if it works and if it doesn't.
I mean, we've seen it, though. We've seen them be the 2 seed. And then you throw KD in. KD can go in anywhere. That's the difference, I'd say, with that. Mm-hmm. But, yes, I know what you're saying. I agree. Like, these jumbo lineups are interesting.
The personnel, I think they can do a lot to tap into. And I think the Scotty Barnes jump, if I had the Toronto Raptors, is the Scotty Barnes jump there. And if it is, I think this team can definitely hit another gear, especially out east. If this team was out west, it'd be a whole different discussion. But since they're out east, they have the talent to be better than Miami this year. I wouldn't be shocked. I think they're going to be better than Chicago this year. Like,
I agree with that. I do think
they have more talent than a lot of those teams in that bottom half of kind of the playoffs play-in, to where I think they're just a step below like Atlanta, Toronto, Philly. If Philly's healthy, I think Philly's clearly better than them if they're healthy. But if they're injury prone throughout the year, I think they're right in that tier, just a little bit below those teams. But I think they could be the most talented player.
Are you taking them over the Bucks?
No, because I respect Giannis too much.
Okay, but are you? Do you think the Raptors could be a top 6 seed? Because that's what you're talking me into that, and you didn't even say it. You're talking me into them not being even a play-in team. You're talking me into them being over Boston or Indiana potentially, and you're almost selling me on them being in a tier with one of Orlando or Atlanta, whatever one doesn't kind of reach their full potential. We thought, if I'm gauging that right, because you're moving me on that. I agree with that.
I'm looking at, because they were just super hurt last year. I'm looking at the standings last year. 6, 7, and 8 were Detroit, Orlando, Atlanta. I think Toronto
at 11. I can see the Raptors having a better
11.
year than Detroit. I can see them having a better year than Detroit.
I think they could be right there with them.
But I wasn't meaning to hate on them just because the Colin Murray Boyles thing though. Like I think the Raptors. I just more said like I don't know if they can win a playoff series, and I feel like they went all in. But that's okay. I hate to get in the whole like ring or bust thing because I almost feel like I came off like, oh, if they don't go on a run, it's a failure because they just got a lot better, and there's nothing wrong with that sometimes. And someone said on a pod, I heard on a pod one time, someone was like, in the Canada teams, like they don't want to rebuild, like that fan base just wants to see them having
good
a winning
ball.
product,
like and
and they're gonna get better ball this year than last year. But I still think it's valid to look at them in a way of like, hey, like Scotty Barnes is a player we thought was gonna be a little better, and he was not.
I think they're the biggest wild card team. I think they could be the sneaky
I might watch
team.
hella Raptors games this year, bro. I might for real watch hella Raptors games on League Pass, whatever they're on.
How we saw Detroit take the crazy big ass jump to the 6th seed and take New York in a competitive series. I think Toronto can be that wild card team where like it's post deadline about All-Star break, and we're like, man, how's Toronto the 5 seed right now? And Scotty Barnes is an All-Star. Like, that's just kind of the vibe I could see happening because they have. Yeah, I'm saying people are sleeping on BI, but I can move on to.
That duo might be crazy.
It could be. The Miami Heat's a tough one. Because I have them at 10. The main question I had is kind of quick because the Miami Heat are so just in the mid right now.
Honest,
yeah, they're
like
yeah. So my main thing was, and now Tyler Hero's going to miss the start of the season, so we'll see if Norman Powell is going to live up to what he was last year with this new team. I said, does this team have one more move in them this season? Because this seems like a team that is built to make another move, to pivot and move on to something else. Because you have good players that can be traded on good contracts. Like Andrew Wiggins only has like a year left. You just brought in Norman Powell, who contenders could love. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to be because we know the Miami Heat, they're going to be a play-in team. Once again, Bam Adebayo, I expect to have a better year when they get Tyler Hero back. I think they're a play-in team. I think they're going to be like a 9-8 seed.
Floor defensively.
And I like Khalil Ware in year 2 next to Bam, but looking at them, they're a team that needs one more piece, like not to compete or be a finals contender or anything like that, but they just need another piece to just try to crack the playoffs, crack that top 6. And I don't really know what that piece is. Like, I don't think Kasparis is ready really year 1 to be a lead guard. And I love Davion Mitchell on this team. He fits what they want to do. But they're really, I guess another question I could say, just because I've been kind of a little bit tapped into Euroball, can Nikola Jovic take a leap? Because he's this guy, I feel like every offseason we go into the year with the Heat, and he's like, he was the young guy, more so rather than Jaime Jaquez. Like, he was the guy that was like 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", however you want to label him as, like a guy that could take a leap and do a little bit more, but he was hooping overseas in the Euro. So, like, he's a guy, like, he's their only young player, young asset that kind of has a little bit more of a ceiling next to Khalil Ware, and I guess you could throw Kasparis in that room as well. But, like, he is somebody that, like, if he adds and gives you, like, a really good, like, a little less of a Denny Abdia in a way, because I kind of compare the two. They kind of play similarly a little bit. Like he can be something about that, just a little bit. Like, 14, 8, and 6 a night, like that could easily help them. He can be, because he's a good ball handler too. You can run some versatile lineups, but I feel like he's done so much overseas where it gets to the regular season. I feel like we've been having this talk, not even this talk, but like this question of, does he have this ceiling in the NBA like he does overseas for real?
No, I like all that. I like that Jovic shout out. That's all I gotta say about the Heat, honestly.
Yeah, you can move on to the number 9 because the Heat, like you said, the Heat kind of lame. They're kind of lame. They never make any moves for real.
We're probably sleeping on them, though. Like they'll win more games than you think. It's the Heat, but like they're just kind of lame.
Mm-hmm.
That one trade was confused. The Norman Powell trade was a little that was a 3-teamer actually. Never mind. They did good in that. I'm tweaking. If I'm not mistaken, actually, I don't even remember. I'm one of the Atlanta Hawks. So the NBA offseason is too long because I've realized something that's happened with the Hawks. When free agency happened, they made.
Wait, you did the Hawks?
Is that who's up? Number 9.
Number 9 was the Bulls.
Oh shit! I'll do Bulls.
No, you can go into Hawks. I can come up with the Bulls. You can go into the Hawks.
You sure?
Yeah.
My fault. I must have been looking at something wrong.
Yeah. So what was your question about the Hawks? Yeah.
So my question was as simple as, can Porzingis stay healthy for 65 plus games and for a playoff run?
My same question.
Because bro, the NBA offseason has been so long that people have talked themselves out of the Hawks and like second guess. And we've done it too, like with the Magic and them. We're kind of now like, we hyped them up so much, some times past, and now we're like, wait, like what are the odds of these teams disappoint though? And then we're all wrong. You know what I'm saying? But no, the truth is they had an unbelievable offseason, and I could highlight so many different names, and even guys like, okay, Jalen Johnson, I think is an all-star. He's coming back. So many guys. Zach Parise, first overall pick last year. He's an amazing shooter, blah, blah. So much of their depth, but it's Kristaps Porzingis, dude. Like, if he's healthy for 65-plus games in a playoff run, even 50 games and is there for the playoffs, that with Trae Young, that is enough in this East to already get them to be a team that's going to win a playoff series or something like that. And then you throw in all the depth with Nikhil, all these different players. I love the Hawks. I have no questions that they're going to be a good team. And if Porzingis can be healthy for 65-plus games in playoff run, like I wrote down, and you said too, like they could be a serious Eastern Conference Finals contender.
He's an X factor, because when you look at when he was healthy and on the court for Boston when they won the chip, they were unfuckwittable. Like they couldn't be fucked with when they had Kristaps healthy and on the court. We saw that in game 1 where they played Dallas at home. Like Kristaps came out and had a quick 15, like, and Dallas had no answer for it. But I do think he's the X factor. I'll take it even a step further. If there's any team in kind of the 3 to 6 realm, I think Atlanta gives the Cavs and Knicks the biggest problems out of like the Magic, Detroit, and Atlanta. Like out of those 3, I think Atlanta poses the biggest threat because of Trae Young. And like you have Trae Young and Kristaps in the pick and roll. You have Dyson Daniels, who is a deep point kid. Like you have Nikhil Alexander-Walker, who you can throw anywhere on the court and he's gonna fit. Jalen Johnson was a borderline. You have Risha Shea just in the whips, like he could take a jump. Like he could take a jump. Like you have all this size. They finally took the. We saw what Dallas did with Luka and how they put a bunch of length and size around him. And Trae Young's a smaller player, but you're looking at the lineups like Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Risha Shea, Kristaps. Like that's all 6'7" and up around Trae Young. And Onyeka Okongwu off the bench. Like they have a deep team, and
Mo Gay is low-key good too, just saying.
Like they have a lot going for them in Atlanta, but I think Kristaps is the X factor. I think they would be fine if they load managed him a little bit, because I do like Onyeka, and I think they're a good enough team with even without Kristaps to get into the playoffs. But he's their X factor. Kristaps is going to be the reason they win or lose a series in the playoffs, in my opinion.
And if he's not playing, they still can go Risha Shea and Johnson at the 4-5 and have a really good starting lineup. So that's why I said even without him, I think they're a good team. And
but he's their X factor to getting to
the higher level.
To here. Yeah, to entering a higher level in the East.
I think I mixed up Bulls and Hawks because the Bulls beat them in the play-in or something. So like I was looking at the standings that changed it after the play-in was over, or one of us was. That's probably why I fucked that up. My bad.
My question for the Bulls, kind of like something I've always had in the back of my head, is because they extended him. Can Josh Giddey be the player he was back half of last year consistently? Because I feel like it is so valuable and important for the development of other guys on the team. When you're looking at Noah Essengay and you're looking at Matas Buzelis, like they might not have this super flashy young core, but if Josh Giddey can be this engine that can help get these guys the ball, like I think it's going to mean a world. And the Bulls were a fun, exciting watch back half of last year. Like with Giddey and Kobe White, like if Giddey can be the engine for this team, I think the development of the Chicago Bulls is going to go a lot faster than people expected to. And I just like Matas Buzelis. I think he's a real guy in this league at the wing spot, but he is going to benefit so much more in transition from playing with a guy like Josh Giddey, who is a playmaker, who is a 6'8", who can, I feel like, really found his footing again and his confidence again after leaving OKC in the back half of the last year, and is what got him paid. Like, Josh Giddey's real deal, like a triple-double threat every given night. Like, in the scheme with the Bulls and that run-and-gun style, he is like, him and Lonzo are two different players, for sure. But he is a playmaker that can push the ball in transition like Alonzo Ball. And I feel like that's when the Bulls were at their best, when Lonzo was pushing the ball in transition, when they had LaVine and DeRozan and Caruso in them. So if they can get back to that with Josh Giddey, and that's my question, if he can stay consistent with that, I think they're going to be further in their development than a lot of people think. Because I think Josh Giddey is the key to developing a lot of those guys rather than them on their own, just because of how he is as a playmaker.
Yeah, I think Josh Giddey allows them to play a certain type of way, kind of like you said with the up tempo stuff, and then like when you draft a Noah Senge, uh, it kind of complements that. So it does tell me they got a little bit of organization there, and them drafting a guy like a Senge, I think he's like a play finisher, kind of a transition guy with high upside. The Bulls fans are kind of like trying to give him those Giannis comps. So I think it kind of does mean something. Like they want to continue to go in that direction of up tempo basketball because that's going to maximize him, modest. And that does mean like I think Josh Giddey like allows you to play that way at an efficient in an efficient way. So I do like them extending him. And honestly, I don't even think that the contract was that bad. I mean, Giddey, everyone's getting a ton of money nowadays, and I thought it was. I mean, I thought that he was wanting more than that or something. So I would have gave him that money for sure. They were playing better basketball with him, and now I think it's really just like what are you gonna do with Vucevic, and how can you go from like being just like a playing team to actually getting back to where you're like top 6 seed, chance to win a playoff series. That's what the Bulls
Right.
need. Like those fans are just tired of average. They want to be like cemented a playoff team for an offseason, I think. And I don't think that's where they're at right now, but maybe next year we look at them if they make some moves. I
Yeah.
like the Giddey signing too, to be
I
honest.
think I think they're it's a the position and play style that Josh Giddey has is the most underrated thing in basketball right now. I feel like all the money goes towards the 3-and-D wings that want a corner sit, and then just you let the star of the game, the Lukas, the Trae Youngs, the Anthony Edwards just rock out and shit. But I feel like just the playmaker like position has like lost its value, and people don't value it as much, because I could say it might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think the biggest reason the Timberwolves haven't broken through their ceiling and gotten to the finals is because
Just
they
thinking of
don't have
them.
a true playmaker. Mike Conley's up
Yep.
there in age. They don't have that true guy that can set the offense up and everything else like that. Like a perfect example, look in the past years of all these teams that have been good or broke through the ceiling. They were run by a good point guard. I think about the Phoenix Suns before they got Chris Paul all the time. As soon as they got Chris Paul, they were a 60-win team and went to the finals. Like playmakers in this league are so needed. Like it goes unnoticed. Like we're looking at Tyrese Halliburton. We always give him a lot of flack for not being the scorer that he can be at nights. But like he took that team to the Pacers went to the finals, bro. Like with the playmaker at the
Game
helm
7
being their
too.
guy. Like and they went to a game 7. Like the playmaking position has just gone unnoticed. Like I feel like in the years past, like every team you need at least one guy that can run the show for you at the point guard position, that can just put
Yeah.
guys in spots and put guys in positions to win. And I think guys like Josh Giddey can do that because he is that kind of player that can put guys in good positions. Like even with OKC, I know they didn't have him during the championship run, but they hit the corner as a team when Chris Paul was there. Like they were able to do more and develop their guys more when you had a good playmaker at the helm. That's kind of my last takeaways of Chicago and like Josh Giddey. They have a good playmaker in place, and I think that can really shake some things up for them developmental wise.
No, I like that. I'll move on to the Magic. But one last thing, I think it is good to celebrate those type of players. As valuable the 3-and-Ds became, it is important to like acknowledge that like when there's guys that there is a small group of players that can really like be an offense. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
Josh Giddey does that at a super high level by any means. He's not up there with like
Yeah.
those all
If I
stars
had
that
to
do
rank it,
it.
he's like the lowest in terms of
A
being an
hundred
offensive
percent.
engine.
But it's a unique group of players, so it's important to acknowledge that. Like people joke about Josh Giddey stuff a lot, whatever. Like he's almost became underrated because of his off court allegations. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
he really had a really good year last year.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think the Bulls are very good. Anyways, the Orlando Magic. I look at their roster as really good, so I don't really. It was hard for me to really think of a question because their defense has been proven. Everyone loves Paulo as a young player, at least most people do. Franz is amazing. They got 2 top 10 small forwards. I know Paulo's a power forward, but they really have 2 top 10 small forwards in the NBA. And like honestly, maybe even 2 top 5. Some people would have Franz top 5, blah blah. My question for them though is like everyone loves the Desmond Bain edition. Me too. Me just as much as anyone. But like, is he enough to fix their spacing issue? Like obviously he helps majorly. He's one of the best shooters in the league, but I just kind of wonder, like I still look at this team and I really it's like, oh, you added Desmond Bain. Now I see one shooter. Like maybe they need more shooting outside of Desmond Bain. That honestly kind of probably just depends on if Paolo takes even another jump into like being a top 10 player in the NBA. If he does, then they're probably good because that means he's going to be providing a lot of offense. But if not, and he does in the playoffs already, but I don't know. I just wonder if they might need, because you haven't got the Jet Howard jump really. You don't really have any other, as a shooter, I'd say, you don't really have any other proven shooters. So Desmond Bain's a great pickup, but maybe need another shooter.
Yeah, I would agree. They're a sneaky team, and I don't know what's going on with him because of the off-court stuff, but they're a sneaky team because the value on him is going to be so low. Like, if they were able to swoop in and get, like, Malik Beasley and, like, a one-year kind of prove-it-again kind of deal off your bench, I feel like that would be huge because he's just sitting. I don't even know if Detroit has money or wants to sign him because they brought in Duncan Robinson, like, to kind of replace that role. So we're all the off-the-court stuff, if they can swoop in and get somebody, like, of his caliber, now you have two shooters, like one that can come off your bench in space. But like this team also had a ton of injuries, super banged up. Paolo missed time, Franz missed time, Jalen Suggs missed a big chunk of the year. Like I feel like Wendell Carter has kind of regressed because he was like sneaky stretch 5 at one point in time a couple years ago, but like he's kind of fallen off. But I think Desmond Bain is going to be enough because he's such an upgrade over KCP, and KCP is looking to be a little bit of a product of Jokic in the Denver Nuggets system, a little bit more than they probably would have thought. But Desmond Bain is somebody who in Memphis proved that he'd run the 1, be the 2. I love him and Suggs in that backcourt because Desmond Bain, because we always saw the Anthony Simons to Orlando conversations, but Desmond Bain isn't a slouch on defense like Anthony Simons. So, like, he doesn't impact their defense in a negative way. So, like, another underrated player they brought in was Tyus Jones because they don't have Cole Anthony anymore. He's with the Bucks. So, like, Tyus Jones is another underrated pickup for them. But they have a strong defensive identity.
Signing. You're right. Yeah. I failed to mention him. He can shoot. I apologize.
So, like, now your guard rotation, in my opinion, is elite with Tyus Jones, Anthony Black, Desmond Bain, and Jalen Suggs. So your backcourt's always going to be solidified with some sort of size and playmaking defense. And then you have that around Paolo and Franz. Like you said, they're 2 top 10 power forwards, small forwards in the game. Like the only thing I would say, if they were to upgrade something at the deadline, if they could get a little bit more at the center position, I like Goga and Wendell. Mo Wagner was somebody who was huge for them that got hurt and tore his ACL at the end of last year, but they brought him back. We'll see how he looks. But like, if they can maybe add maybe a little bit more, I don't even know what name would be, but a little bit more at the center spot, like even if for just some more spacing, if they went and got back Vucevic for like the low, just for some spacing. If the shooting doesn't hit the corner, like if they just needed some more spacing, I could see something like that. But I think they're fine right now. But if I had to put them with the Hawks, I maybe look at the Hawks maybe like little. I think the Hawks just have a little bit more complete of a team. Just a little bit more. I like the depth a little bit more in the Atlanta.
I think I'm looking at Anthony Black as a guy who could get traded, depending on how the season goes. I mean, we're talking about a really good prospect who just hasn't really found his way in Orlando, but everyone knows he's good still, you know? Mm-hmm. And that could even be like, I don't know, I think a lot of teams could trade for a guy like that. He's a 6'5" point guard, but he kind of is a 2 also. He's good. He just hasn't really I don't know. He hasn't really found his way in Orlando. I just kind of look at him as maybe a guy that can bring them back some good value in a trade for a center, for another shooter, whatever it is.
He kind of, not in like play style, but he kind of almost reminds me of like Kobe White a little bit because Kobe White had a little bit of a slow start when he got drafted by Chicago. And then like all of a sudden back half of a year, 2 years ago, he was just elite and like was just this combo scoring guard that could run the 1, run the 2. I don't think Anthony Black has that kind of level of scoring, but he reminds me of a little bit of a tweener, like a little bit somebody that can run the 1 but run the 2 in a pinch because of his size. But he's somebody that definitely could net them a good return.
I could see the Bucks trading for him if our season isn't going well, honestly.
Yeah.
We need to get younger, and he could be a lead guard of the future. We don't really have a point guard outside of Giannis. He's just a guy I've been targeting as a Bucks fan. But anyways.
But we got to see. We'll see what Orlando, because I feel like a lot of people are either in on both or out on one and on the other, on the Hawks and the Orlando Magic. I'm going to be paying so much attention to those two teams. And I'm a big Paolo guy. Love Paolo. So
Me too. They got a
so
lot
we're
of
gonna see
pressure
where
on
that
these
goes.
first 10 games, bro. Both these teams
Yeah.
got pressure instantly. Like, and I
Mhm.
love it. I'm excited. Like they can't come out 4-6, 5-5. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. They both got to come out playing good ball. Especially
Mhm.
Trey. Trey's got a hoop after this Pat Bev shit. He's got a hoop.
Yeah. Now going on to the Pistons, getting into the top 6. I said, can the others develop? We kind of had the talk, like you could see like Toronto being a little bit better than Detroit. I just think Toronto has a better like 2 and 3 option consistently night in, night out. Like, who is the second option outside of Cade Cunningham? I know they've kind of built this culture, and I love what JB Bickerstaff has done. It didn't work out in Cleveland. They couldn't get over the hump, and they still can't get over the hump even with Kenny Atkinson. So, like, he goes to Detroit and, like, takes what was the worst team in the league to a playoff berth in a competitive series versus New York. So, my main question is, can the others develop? I know they didn't have Jaden Ivey back half of last year. He's coming off of an injury. What's his fit going to look like now? Because you already have Asar in the wings as well. You already have Ron Holland there as well. Like, you're not having Malik Beasley have this crazy shooting year and really what he thought was going to get paid this offseason from that year. Like, what is this team and their second option looking like? Who's going to step up out of the mixed talent of young guys? Because we know Cade Cunningham is a borderline top 10 player in the game. Like, you have him, but what other guys are going to step up? That's kind of the only thing I had about the Detroit Pistons, because I like where they're going. But I wanted, like, they were a team where I'm like, man, why didn't they get like Zach LaVine or Brandon Ingram, like, solidify that number 2 option to where, like, you can look at Asar and Ron Holland and have them be your defenders and not have to expect this huge offensive lead.
Jaden Ivey coming back will help a lot.
Yeah.
Depending on how good you think he's going to be. But I agree, bro. They got a bunch of third options. They need to get Cade. Like, and that's not a bad thing, because it's not like there are like timelines like right now you have to win. But I agree. Same thing. They need a second. They need to go for a Zach LaVine level player until Jaden Ivey proves he can be like a 2, which I don't know if that's. I don't know. I don't know if I see that,
because they have a lot of solid potential young talents, but I don't know who's going to break out and be that number, because I don't ever really see Asar being a number 2 truly next to Cade.
He could be your second best player one day, but he's not going to be your second scoring option.
That's why I was like, man, because they had the cap room, I'm like, man, like, Ingram was right there for the low, and what the Raptors gave up for him. I'm like, even though he was injured back half of last year, like, he was there for the low, like, and I feel like Ingram and Cade would have complemented each other really well, but we'll see what happens with the Detroit Pistons, because I feel like that second option is definitely needed over there.
They were trying to get Devin Booker there. I remember people doing that.
They might be. Who knows? They might be plotting on bigger fish, because I know they got some cap room lined up down the line for sure.
They could be.
But you can go on to 5.
Are my Milwaukee Bucks up next? Milwaukee Bucks. My question for us, man, was honestly, I tried to not get too crazy about it because as excited I am about the season. I understand our roster is not what it should be around Giannis. But Giannis is so good to a point to where we still matter and are still relevant. We're still going to be on TV a lot. We're still going to be a good team. We're still going to probably make the playoffs just because that's how special a player Giannis is. That's just the truth. But I was trying to think, okay, instead of banking on a bunch of these, like, you know, like kind of like swing players, like, you know, you love a Gary Trent. Some people love like Kevin Porter Jr. and how he plays. People get excited about AJ Green shooting. I'm looking at Kyle Kuzma. Now, he gets made fun of a lot for a lot of different things, including his play recently. But I kind of look back a few years when I think of Kyle Kuzma. I mean, this guy was a part of an NBA Finals team, a championship team in 2020. In Washington, he had some decent years scoring the ball at least, which I know some people, I take it with a grain of salt. Some people don't. It doesn't matter to them at all. I'm thinking, like, could we get a good Kuzma season? Because if we can, we don't need him to be our number 2 option, number 3 option even. We just need a consistent season where he's a decent shooter, good defender. He's going to be a rebounder, not turn the ball over, doing dumb shit. That could really that could take a lot of pressure off a lot of guys. And then, like, I had 2 questions. The other one is, like, are we going to get point Giannis all year, or are we going to kind of give KPJ some more responsibilities? Because I think KPJ could, like, be a threat. Like, He's just a guy who puts pressure on the defense, and in this league that's kind of underrated. You buy a lot of stock in these like 3-and-D guys, and no disrespect to them, but sometimes on a team like this, like when you don't have much talent, you need guys like him who just can kind of put that pressure on the defense as a scorer. So I think he'll help us a lot. But like, is he going to run our point, or is it going to be point Giannis all year?
A sleeper that you guys ended up getting this offseason and kind of just being a threat to score the ball outside of Giannis. I like you brought up KPJ, but Cole Anthony as well. Like Cole Anthony's just a bucket off the bench, like that can just put pressure on defenses. I know Cole Anthony's kind of had this up and down career in Orlando. He might not be the best defender in the world, but when you look at Milwaukee, like somebody that can put the ball on the floor and just go get one when you need one. I think having KPJ and Cole Anthony just has scores outside of Giannis that can create their own, like I think is going to be very valuable. But Miles Turner, man, if Miles Turner can just be healthy all year, the pairing with him and Giannis, I think is going to, because he just gives you so much more offensively than Brook Lopez was these past 2 years.
Yeah,
and just younger, and they're like the way you got him. It's tough because of you having to stretch that Dame contract, but I like it in terms of because you were able to get in somebody that perfectly fits Giannis. So like I'm fine with it. But Milwaukee, I think they really do. They're another team that I think watch out for who they sign in the first like month of the season, because I think they could be in the market for like I know Malcolm Brogdon's still out there. Like they could use
former Bucks
one
rookie
more.
of the year.
Yeah,
Malcolm Brogdon, former rookie of the year.
They're an interesting deadline team compared to see how they're looking. I can get into number 4, which is the Pacers. Main question I have is, can Benedict Mathurin take that next step? Because now he's been in and out of the lineup. He's kind of been like this, how the Warriors utilize Jonathan Kuminga these past 2 years. The Pacers have kind of been doing the same thing with Benedict Mathurin. They're kind of two of the same player, just at different positions. Mathurin's more of a 2-3, Kuminga's more of a 3-4. Like, they're bucket getters. They want to score. They want to get their own and put the ball on the floor and make plays and make shit happen. But, like, the Pacers were so next man, open man, like, moving the ball and everything else like that, where I could see a world where Jonathan Kuminga and because the Warriors and Pacers play similar basketball. Like, that up and down tempo, moving the ball, finding the open man, like, so Kuminga and Benedict Mathurin, I'm not so shocked and surprised that those have been kind of the odd men out, where it's like Benedict Mathurin gets a DMP in the playoffs, but then comes in next game and like has a 20 ball against the Thunder or a 20 ball against the Knicks. Like Kuminga was doing that same shit. He would get a DMP against the Rockets and go give the Timberwolves 25. Like they're kind of the same player. So if he can take that next leap and the world is there, the door is open, because you're going to have Nembhard at your 1 now. Benedict, I think, should be your starting shooting guard, and then you have Nesmith, Siakam, and then your center rotation is kind of because of Miles Turner leaving, but we'll see how they address that and how they play in that up-tempo style. But I think if Benedict Mathurin can take that jump, he's somebody that has the bag and the skill to easily get you 15 to 20 a night, easily, with consistent. Now, is it going to be efficient? Who knows? That's the part of his game where I think they...
I mean, he averaged 16 last year, but he won't play in the play. That perfectly said about the Kuminga thing, yes.
Like him and Kuminga are in the same position because their play style doesn't fit what the team style is. But the talent is there, but they're in a situation to where the Pacers might now be forced to let him rock out with no Halliburton. Yeah.
Now they need that talent. So it's like, yeah, I'm with you. Because, dude, and sorry if I kind of cut you off, but like perfectly said. And I love the Benedict Mathurin bring up because everyone's talking about Andrew Nembhard. And, dude, listen, I love Andrew Nembhard. He's getting fucking overrated right now. I love Andrew Nembhard. That clip in the finals was amazing. He averaged 10 points a game last year. Benedict Mathurin averaged about 17. We need to bring up this guy and how much he is needed on this Pacers team. And keep in mind, you're losing all those points from Miles Turner, too, so you need it from both of them. People act like Andrew Nembhard was this guy for them. He had some cool moments, and also Aaron Naismith was their guy who was mainly taking the assignment. Andrew Nembhard, great defender. Naismith's taking more assignments. Benedict Mathurin's a better scorer. I'm looking at those two to step up more. That sounds like I'm disrespecting Nembhard. I'm not. I just feel like,
he has a lot of pressure going into the year because he's going to be the lead guard and initiator now.
Yeah, he is. And he's a good playmaker, so I get it. But dude, I mean, he averaged 10 in the regular season and like 13 in the playoffs. Like, he was great and he did good things, but it's not like he was some. I never looked at him in the playoffs like this breakout player, but hopefully he can be that for them this year. Like I hope. I sound dumb saying all this, but that I'm just saying like people need to be looking at Mather and like what is this guy about to do, because now they need a lot of production from him points wise. So good
Now look,
points.
like, to wrap up the Pacers, it's like, could the door kind of shut when the Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler in terms of what Kuminga could be for them? But with the Pacers and all the injuries, I could have said a question about their center depth and center rotation and everything with that. But like the style of ball that they play, they really just need not the craziest name, but in terms of spacing and what he could be, they brought in Jay Huff, who I'm not saying is anywhere close to Miles Turner, but a big that can space. They just need, with the style they play, a rim running big that can do a little bit of rim protection, because they're going to find open guys all over this floor. Whether you have Nembhard, who's a good playmaker, TJ McConnell off the bench, who we know what he's about, has a playmaker off the bench in a 6-man role. Like, if they can get 20 a night out of Mathurin, they could be in the mist for being a playoff team again. Like, I don't think this team is going. I think this team is too deep, and with their style of play in the regular season, to just completely fall off without Tyrese Halliburton. I know he's such a big part, but like, I like what they have, and in the Eastern Conference, I think they can still be in the play-in mix
They'll be
as
in the
well.
mix.
Yeah,
They'll be in the mix.
But without Halliburton, the ceiling isn't there. But I think they have
Right.
a really solid high floor from what they just did.
I
And I
agree.
like Rick Carlisle as a coach. And you have
One of the
probably
best
the
in the league.
most consistent players of our generation that gets slept on and will never get talked about in the same light in NBA history, in Pascal Siakam. Like, Siakam's going to give you 22 and 8 a night. Like, he's just
Facts.
he's a walking 20 and 8 a night. Like, so that consistency is going to be there.
I'll be honest, man. Though, like the Halliburton injury already would have me saying that. The losing Turner also, though, I think that's gonna show up. That's gonna show up major. But I do agree they'll be in the mix as like a play-in team.
Mm-hmm.
Pascal's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, with the Knicks, I'll be honest, dude. Like, I was forcing it with these questions because I think this team is like incredible. But the question is just gonna go back to, like, dude, they looked incredible last year, but they just like fell off against the Pacers, and it was simple as me as your two best players were unplayable on the floor together on defense. And I just think that, do I think there's ways to avoid that with the personnel you have? And yes, I think there's ways you can maybe avoid that, but like that is such just a not good feeling to have in the back of your head as a fan throughout the year. Like, let's say this team has like a historic regular season, right? I still feel like, in a playoff series what people are going to be watching for, who people are going to be attacking every single play. And I think that's tough. I want to know what Mike Brown does, how much better Mike Brown makes them, because Thibodeau has only done great things with this group. And I'm worried that, like, I'm just worried they run into the same problems as last year, and what had nothing to do with the coaching. Although I think Mike Brown's going to bring a lot of good things out of Karl-Anthony Towns, it felt like you got pretty much the best you can get from Brunson and Cat offensively last year in the playoffs, and you lost to Indiana. No disrespect to them. I don't know. That's really the only questions I have, because I think it's a really good team.
I can kind of
going to come down to that.
Off that. I think Karl-Anthony Towns has such a great year last year, but I think Mike Brown, the team when they had Randall, Quickly, and Barrett, was so much more of a Thibodeau team than what they have now. I always compare Thibodeau. Yeah, I always compare Thibodeau and Doc Rivers a ton, because they are both coaches that get a lot of flack in this league, but they are coaches to where they can raise your floor so much because of the culture they can instill. I think both of those coaches do so much more with less. I compare what Thibodeau did with the Knicks and what Doc Rivers did with the Clippers before they got PG and Kawhi. When the Clippers had Pat Bev, Lou Will, Tobias, Gallinari, all those guys over there in LA, and they were like a playoff team every year. Like, they do more with less, but when I'm looking at Mike Brown and the Knicks, his style and what he did in Sacramento with Fox and Sabonis, I feel like he's going to translate perfectly and better because Karl-Anthony Towns' floor spacing ability, he's the best big man shooter we've seen in our generation. Like, he didn't even shoot a ton of threes last year just because the volume wasn't there. It could have been a tips thing, could have been a scheme thing, but Mike Brown is going to let him shoot the fuck out the ball, which is what he should be doing because they need the extra spacing. So I could even see Karl-Anthony Towns having an even better year than he just did. Like, because of Mike Brown being there. And now you have depth. You brought in Jordan Clarkson, which I think is a huge, I think you were going to see a possibility of like him reviving the 6th man of the year candidate kind of vibe because he's in just a more competitive situation to compete for the playoffs. Like they brought in some depth. Guerschon Yabusele was a steal from the Sixers.
Great
because
pickup.
he's somebody that can fit at that 4 and that 5 spot. He's a big difference maker because he can play out there with Karl-Anthony Towns, and you have Mitchell Robinson in who is in a contract year. I'm high on New York. I think Karl-Anthony Towns could be sneaky. I'm not going to say top 3. He's going to be a sneaky guy to where you're looking at like, damn, Karl-Anthony Towns is averaging 27 and 13, like 27, like just insane numbers. Like because if the he did all that last year, if the 3-point shot has more volume, yeah, he's easily all NBA. And Brunson easily all NBA. I think Mikal Bridges will have a bigger role. Mikal Bridges is going to have a bigger role as well. He's going to give him, Mike Brown's going to get him more involved. And I think the offensive talent of this team is higher.
He had a weird year last year.
I am never one to say the Tibbs is playing his guys too much mindset, but it just seems like every year this team gets to the 2nd or 3rd round and they just run out of gas, like almost. It's like they just get so exhausted, and that's a part of having no depth along with the minutes played. So it's like, fuck, it seems like that's the biggest cause of them getting eliminated every year. It's like injuries, or they just seem exhausted at the end. And playing the Pacers the Pacers picked the fucking Thunder, who had the MVP, like to 7 games. And like before the Hallie injury, it was looking scary at the start of that game 7. Like, so the Pacers were just the team of destiny last year. So like the Knicks, I just feel like they have a better coach for the team they have built now. That's kind of where I'm going to end off on the Knicks.
I mean, yeah, I'll say one, like that was my question. I agree. I'm high on them. My question was simply just like, I even said their depth is fixed, but is Mike Brown an upgrade? So that's, and I mean, you answered that for me. I think you bring up good points. There is, as much as I didn't like they fired Tibbs, I do like the positive sides of hiring a Mike Brown.
Mike Brown was legit the only guy I would have been like confident in to replace Tibbs because he's a more style fit for what they have on their team. Getting into Boston, I have a quick one about the Boston Celtics. Like looking at them, like obviously Tatum is already working out and everything else like that. You can take that with a grain of salt, however you want to take that.
Insane.
And then you see who else is working out? Working out
for the Celtics?
Was it Dame? No, it was another guy off of injury. I don't know if it was Dame. Somebody else was working out that just had a crazy injury. I forgot who it was.
I seen Hallie was moving around at media day, but nothing crazy. So I don't think he's him working out.
But getting into my question about the Celtics, what would it take for you to move Derek White? Now, I know Derek White's a fan favorite. His value around the league is fucking crazy. Like he's listed. Like this is why I wanted to bring up the 3-and-D combo and what 3-and-Ds mean to this league. Because I think 3-and-Ds damn near are getting this like tag and this label of being all around better players than what they actually are when they are filling a specific need and role on a team. Because I'm like top 100, rank your players how you want to rank your players, whatever. But like he's above guys that just like, he's not a better basketball player than LaMelo Ball. Like, let's just keep it fucking honest. He's just not a better basketball player than like Jaren Jackson Jr. even. Like, let's keep it fucking honest. He plays a specific role, and he's the 5th option, 6th option on most nights for the Celtics.
But you're talking about one of the best in the league at the 3-and-D role. Like he could be in comp with some of these dudes that you know what I'm saying. But I agree.
In terms of
he's
impact,
like the best of the best at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my main take and question is, what would it take for you to move him? Because he's sneakily on the older side. You're in this kind of gap year until you get Tatum back. You're in a situation to where you need to upgrade the front court. You could use more playmaking because I feel like Pritchard's more of a sixth man when they have Tatum and Brown out there healthy. What? I would move Derek White for multiple first-round picks. I would
I don't know
move
how,
him
though.
because when you look at this gap year, even when you get Tatum back, like, you're going to have to revamp your front court because you don't have Porzingis. You're going to need to bring in some more defenders because you lost Drew Holiday. And, like, Tatum and Brown, obviously, and it could take Tatum a whole year to get back to where he once was. Like, I would cash in on the chips and the value that Derek White has right now because he's sneakily on the older side. Like, he is on the older side. You paid him to an extension and a big-time contract to where it's a safe contract to trade for, and his value will never be as high as it is right now. So if you're the Celtics and you're a fringe play-in team at the deadline, and you're like, Jaylen Brown, take it easy. Not saying we're tanking, but maybe the ankle injury is lasting 4 to 6 instead of 2 to 3. Like, maybe we could look at this team and reshuffle our cards with assets we get from a Derek White possible trade. Because you're telling me teams like the Timberwolves couldn't cash in on some chips to go get them, like the Warriors, like the Rockets now with no Van Fleet. Like, you could really
I can see the
make
Spurs
some shit happen.
bringing them home or back.
The Spurs, like there's so many. Every team in the league could use a Derek White.
All I'm going to say about that, and I agree, I think Boston thinks that too, though. They think that I think they value Derek White a little bit higher than you do, and I do, because I agree with what you're saying. But I think there's people in Boston right now saying he's going to be he could be right there with being an all-star. Like him without Tatum, we think he's a good enough playmaker, shooter, scorer, defender to be maybe even take another jump. But I look at it the same where he's on the older side. But they might feel like, wait, what if he's an all-star now and then we trade him before we got to maybe commit to him or something like that. Who knows? But
I think if a team hits you up and they're talking 3-4 first,
yeah,
you got to at least listen. If you could get 2 first and a younger-ish player, I think you got to listen. I think you have to listen.
I'm with you.
Like, if a team like Detroit hits you up with talking about multiple picks, like, I think you got to listen at the end of the day. And then you go into the next offseason with more cap space and you kind of really revamp because this team isn't doing shit until they get their front court situation figured out, for one.
I'm not going to lie. I love Derek White, but if Detroit sells out for him, I'd low-key be pissed at Detroit.
Yeah, like, but him and Asar defense would be tough.
But they're not. They'd get a lot better, but they wouldn't, bro. I think Cade
the Spurs are a perfect team.
Yeah, because he was already there, too. That just makes sense.
The Spurs are a really good team for that. And, like, God, I just thought of a crazy situation and a crazy trade because their front court's so loaded. Like, it depends who you're talking to about how high Derek White's value is, but, like, would the Spurs be interesting? And depending on how they do this year, like Derek White for Stephon Castle, because you already have Dylan Harper.
I was just going to say that, Corey. I was just going to say that, deadass. Yes.
Like, if you're
I don't think they would. They're stubborn about him, but
yeah. But like
their
that's
fan base
if you
thinks
could
he's
add
fucking the next, like, bro. I'm sorry.
But if you put him in Boston, he can be the perfect mix of like Drew Holiday-ish next to Tatum and Brown. It fantasy trade, but like
you get back some of the defense you're losing to help Tatum.
Yeah,
I agree.
Mm-hmm. You not the shooting, but the defense, and I think the ability to possibly be a lead guard is there in Boston. But you can wrap this episode up talking about Cleveland, who's kind of a tough one to go into as well.
Yeah, I'll keep it short about Cleveland because they had just an unbelievable season. Thing about them, though, is going to be health as well because of you look at last year where they were like a historic offense, not historic, but one of the best offenses in the NBA last year, maybe the number one offense in the regular season. Playoffs come, you deal with that Garland injury, you're missing guys. Guys are getting hurt, missing games left and right. That's honestly, to me, why they really lost that Indiana series. I thought they were that good of a team where if they are fully healthy, I know it's hard to say that with the team of destiny vibes that Indiana was given, but that offense completely dropped off after the injuries, and they were really struggling. Like, Donovan Mitchell was having 30-shot games, which is like, he's a good enough player. You want to see that, or you can live with that, but you don't want to rely on him just having to take 30 shots in a playoff game. That's not the type of offense they were all year. So if they can stay healthy, that'll help them with that. And then I guess if you're really thinking you might get away with it this year, because the big question was, okay, if them and Boston meet in an ECF, like, can DeAndre Hunter be a good enough matchup for Tatum? So then that's not really the question now. Now I look at the Knicks and I'm like, okay, who's going to be your Brunson guy? Like, can Lonzo take that point of attack responsibility this year in a playoff series? Because that's kind of a question. The Cavs are going to have a good defense with Evan Mobley on the back end, but are Hunter and Zoe going to be good enough as your on-ball guys? I know Donovan, like, he works hard and stuff, but you're going to need Lonzo and DeAndre Hunter to really step up in a point of attack defense role to ensure that you're like the favorite in the East. Because if not, like, I could just see Brunson just kind of cooking them if Zoe's hurt or something.
Yeah, I like everything you just said, because I think Alonzo Ball, I know he's had his injury problems and everything else, but he seemed to go into this season healthy. Like, I think I'd rather take him and his defense of what could be off your bench compared to Ty Jerome, which kind of does a lot of the same stuff that Garland does, but isn't a defender of Alonzo Ball's caliber because he doesn't have the size.
Ty Jerome was fucking terrible in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I think Lonzo's a really good replacement. But the only question I have is kind of like a thing that needs to happen. They need Darius Garland to be healthy, man. Darius Garland has been sneakily injury prone the past like 3 years. Like, and he's somebody to where if it comes down to another injury or something like that, if you're Cleveland, you're like, all right, like, say Alonzo Ball is hooping, like, say you could replace him with another backup point guard if you want to move off of Garland. And if they have another second round exit, shit's changing. I know they've kind of stayed put and stayed that big four together, but if they have another disappointing second round exit, it's to the point where if it has to be Eastern Conference Finals, you lose to the Knicks in like 7 games to have it be somewhat of a rebound of a season, because this team has been good for the past couple seasons. And I feel like they've done nothing but disappoint in the playoffs. Rather it's a Garland injury, a Jared Allen injury, like somebody's injured on the team. Like, they just need to have a conference finals or bust year for this to be any kind of W of a season. And Garland, if he has another injury, I'm really thinking at the deadline, like, all right, maybe we got to field some calls.
I don't know. Yeah.
Because he's the person, it's like, it's either Garland's injured in the playoffs this year or that year, or he's missing a big chunk of the season one year. No slight on him. Injuries happen. It's the game of basketball. But it's like, at some point, it's like, fuck, like, they need to get over the hump. And Garland, I feel like I like Mobley at the 4. I might be the only people that likes Mobley at the 4, because that size is very needed against some of the teams that you could possibly play coming out of the West. Like, I just think Garland, if there had to be an odd man out, I think it would be Garland. I really do. Like, I just think it would be. Because you got to think, everybody loves to bring up the small backcourt with him and D. Mitch. Like, does it work? Like, we've seen it work with Lillard and McCollum, and they were never able to get to the chip. Like, another small backcourt, no 2 different players completely, but like, that conversation comes up again. Like, is Garland really the one to run the show for them next to D. Mitch? It's interesting.
No, yeah.
But that's all I really had on the Cavs.
Yeah, man, it'll be a fun year. The East is so confusing, because it's like, it feels like there's no like set team that's the best, but it's definitely, I couldn't pick between the Knicks and Cavs for real right now, but I would say it is definitely those two. Like, if we're being honest, like, I could almost confidently say the New York Knicks or the Cleveland Cavaliers will represent the East in the finals this year. And I feel like it's pretty, I want to say the Bucks so bad, but I mean, those two teams it's going to be interesting.
But that is all we have for one question for the Eastern Conference, and another video will be the Western Conference side of things. But that is all we have for this episode of the Barrel Talk Podcast. Hope to see you tune in to future episodes.